Hello and welcome to the Voice of TOD. I'm Tom, and in this video I'm going to give you my thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife, the third sequel in the Ghostbusters franchise, and the latest from director Jason Reitman. The movie was written by Reitman, Gil Kenan and Dan Aykroyd. The star-studded cast includes Carrie Coon as Callie, Paul Rudd as Gooberson, Finn Wolfhard as Trevor, McKenna Grace as Phoebe, Logan Kim as Podcast, and returning stars Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, and some other faces and voices that you'll recognise. Synopsis from IMDb. I don't know why I do this bit, but this one actually works for the film, so we'll do it. When a single mum and her two kids arrive in a small town, they discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. That works. And that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the film. So, it's not a secret that I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. It's one of a handful of movies that I've probably seen more than I can count, and probably been in my life longer than anything else that I can remember. I grew up with both movies and the numerous cartoons, and I've always loved sitting back and rewatching the movies. To say I was excited for Afterlife is a little bit of an understatement. That first trailer just blew me away. The hints, the music, the nods, the eeriness, everything was perfect. So, after many delays, we finally got to the time where I was sat in my local cinema, the big screen, and I finally sat down. First showing. And I suddenly thought, what if this is bad? I've not thought that for a long time. I think the last time I thought that was when I sat down in the exact same screen, probably the same seat, to see Blade Runner 2049. And suddenly I thought I was going to be disappointed with Ghostbusters. And the movie opening took me by surprise. I went with it. We get introduced to Callie and her kids. There's a very strong narrative that feels like it's meant to tear down the character of Egon very early on. Much like we've seen with Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars sequels, or Arnie's Terminator John Connor really, in the absolutely awful Terminator Dark Fate. I was starting to check out of this movie when the mystery began to unravel, and the nods and the nostalgia, and it pulled me straight back in. This movie does everything it can to pay homage to Ghostbusters 1984. Character moments, nods with similar ghosts, returning characters obviously. There is a couple of omissions that I'll touch on. But even some of the dialogue and the music is pretty much the same. It's missing the 80s synth I was really waiting for, but the original score is fantastic. It's so Ghostbusters, works perfectly. But at its heart, this movie is a family drama. It's bundled up in the Ghostbusters theme, setting, ghosts. The effects look very close to, better obviously, very close to the more, I guess, physical and spectral effects from the 80s films instead of the clips that I've seen of the 2016 film, which was overly done CGI. But this really plays hard with nostalgia and that little bit of mystery. What happened in the intervening years? The star of this whole thing, surprisingly, is McKenna Grace. Her Phoebe is the eyes of the audience. It's a modern take on Ghostbusters, but it's also the link to the past. We know this stuff. She's finding it out, and as she's finding bits out, we get the nostalgia hits. And then she's the driving force for the rest of the film to continue. Logan Kim's Podcast is also quite a nice pairing, and they work pretty well. I was very surprised. Usually the young stars, they struggle to carry a film of this grandeur. Maybe not grandeur, maybe expectation. I think they did a fantastic job. And the pairing of them really gives this movie its heart. Carrie Coon's Callie is fine, no problems. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. What more do you want? Let's be honest, it's quite easy to work out who they're playing, or which characters from 84 they're playing, if you know the original movie. Finn Wolfhard, he's rocking some serious Mark Bolan locks, by the way, looking very cool. He's exactly what I expected, but I wanted more from his character. Trevor feels very much forgotten at times. It's not like he's bad, he isn't given enough to do, and it's a real shame. While I liked that we got a lot of time with the new characters for the first half of the movie, it is very slow. I was never bored when it finally got its claws into me. But I was always waiting for something to just ratchet up the pace a little bit, move the plot along a little bit. But when that happens, it really happens. Maybe a bit too quick. As a fan of the original two films, you can kind of fill in the blanks and figure out, and honestly, it doesn't really matter how it gets there, it just gets there. And that's what really sold the movie for me. The finale, the returning cast, the interactions between all of them, it's perfect. It just works. It's handled with love and reverence for the characters that's been in many people's lives for the last 40 years. It just works. Seeing Peter, Ray, Winston back in the boiler suits, fired up, Proton ones at the ready. It's everything that I wanted. I might have even shed a tear. I've been fairly vague on this point. I don't want to spoil anything, but I have to mention Egon. He's a huge part of the first two. He's probably the reason that Ghostbusters functions. Harold Ramis isn't with us anymore. And the question with this movie was always going to be, how do you cope, pay respect to the character without having him there? I think it was handled throughout the entire movie really well. So much emotion wrapped up in the fact that he's not there. From every angle, the new characters and the old. Everything he did is explained, it's resolved, and it's done with love and care. Hats off to the writers, because I wasn't expecting that, and it really did leave me warm and fuzzy. So those omissions that I mentioned, returning cast, they pretty much cover it. Two that are missing. Rick Moranis. I knew it was a long shot. I hoped we might have seen something from him. He may have been in there and I just missed it. This was only my first viewing. But really sad that he wasn't in there. It'd been cool to have Lewis Tully back in. And the other one, which is probably just as big, is Slimer. Where is Slimer? Probably way around that. He's probably still in New York eating hot dogs. But still, I could tell he was missing, and it was quite sad. Yes, I got nervous about seeing this. But this movie does everything it needs, and I loved every moment of it. This is the movie that The Force Awakens should have been. If you love Ghostbusters, I think you'll enjoy this. Also, stay until the very end, because there are 2 post-credit scenes. The last one, in fact, both of them are pretty fucking excellent. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the Voice of Todd for more movie and game news, reviews, and also check out Todd Plays Games, the home of all my Let's Play content. Let me know what you think about Afterlife in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.